Welcome to the Town of Lake Clark Shores Hybrid Town Council meeting, March 9th, 2021. Could we please have a call to order?
Mayor Valtine Rodriguez,
Here.
Vice Mayor Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
President Pro Tem Robert Shalhoub,
Here.
Councilmember Greg Freebold,
Here.
Councilmember Albert Pavone.
Thank you. I want to start with a moment of silence, but before I do that, I kind of wanted to preface it with the following. I think we need to thank each other for all the lives, or thank our families for all the lives that we have and the loved ones we have. And today's a particularly tough day for me on this moment of silence because two persons close to us here have passed away, and a lot of other people have passed away. So, you know, one of the things I think about when we talk about the moment of silence is really what is it about? And I think what we're thinking about is the collective memory of those we've left behind, and you know, enjoying their company, loving God until we meet them again. So with that in respect, the moment of silence are for the following. One is Lydia Welch. She was 95 years old. She is the mother of Bob Shalhoub and the grandmother of Paul Shalhoub. She was a longtime member of our community. I was told she served at the Wellesley HOA for many years. She was always at our town barbecue. She always had a smile. She was a beautiful woman. We're going to miss her. And of course, she was Bob's biggest supporter. Also, Humberto Pavone was 75 years old. He is Albert's dad. And I've been told he was a man of God, a family man. And he lived here in town for about 3.5 years. He's survived by Albert's mom, Anna. And we want to think of him as well. Sally Massey was 87 years old. She passed away. She lives at 7330 Westlake Drive. She passed away on February 17th. She'd been a member of a resident of our town since I was born in 1969. Wow. Philip Gitlin, he was only 47 years old. He passed away on February 17th, 2021. He lived at 8311 Waterway Drive. We also have Robert Green, who passed away on March 8th, 2021. And Paul Shalhoub shared the following with me this morning as well. I think we need to think about these persons. The 1.9 million Floridians who were diagnosed with COVID, the 123,000 in our county, the 29 million in our country, the 32,349 deaths in Florida, 2,568 deaths here in Palm Beach County, the 525,399 deaths nationwide, the 2.6 million deaths around the globe. And when I say that, I think about a year ago when we were here, we had no idea what March 2020 to March 2021 would be like. So with that being said, could we please have a moment of silence? And could you lead us in the invocation, please? I see you up there. Can you hear us?
I can. This seems appropriate to me at the moment, Mayor.
Thank you.
The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not be in want. He makes me lie down in green pastures, and he leads me beside the quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. And even though I would walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I would fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Heavenly Father, there are moments when we need the rod, we need a poke and a prod. There are times when we need your staff, we need your guidance and your comfort. And Father, you are a good and a gracious God. So we humble ourselves before you and beseech that you would pour out your blessing upon each of us, that you would meet our need right where we are. We come before you in thy precious and holy name. Amen.
Thank you so much, Father Stan. You lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance.
I can do that with honor, sir. Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you so much for that prayer. It was very appropriate for a very sad day and a very sad moment of silence, but also a joyous one. Okay, so moving along, can I have an approval of the agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We have Christine. Thank you, Christine. You're with Cars, Riggs, and Ingram.
Correct.
Great, and you're here to give us our presentation of our 2019-2020 fiscal year audit. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Go ahead.
Good evening. My name is Christine Rand, so I'm the audit partner that worked on your audit this year. This is our first year being your external auditor. I'm just going to take you through some of the highlights of the town. So you have an unmodified opinion, so that's a clean opinion. Your general fund had a positive change in fund balance of approximately 1.1 million. Most of that went into your restricted fund balance. If you're trying to determine if you have enough reserves on hand, the GFOA recommends 2 to 3 months, and you have about 2.7 months in your unrestricted fund balance. You're right within that range. Your expenditures for your general fund came in at about 22,000 less than your final budget. The enterprise fund had an increase of approximately $300,000 in your net position, which is always nice. And the town refunded its old promissory notes this year. So you have 2 new promissory notes. So your overall debt increased in the enterprise fund by approximately 970,000, and your governmental activities increased by 874,000. You also early implemented a new GASB. So that's a new accounting standard. You elected,
Thank you.
yeah.
For that.
You elected to do the new treatment on leases this year. So you could have waited 2 more years, but you got leases for the first time this year. So it's easier to go ahead and do it under the new method than have to switch it in 2 years. So if you're looking in the footnotes for your fixed assets, there's a new category called leased assets. That's because of the new standard. Last year, you had an internal control finding about your budget that was cleared this year. We did have 2 findings regarding proper segregation of duties and records maintenance. So it's in detail on page 74 in the printed copy, and also has management's response on how they're going to fix it. So Dan was very open to our recommendations and things on how to improve. If anyone has any questions on the financials, I'd be happy to answer them.
Before I ask for questions, I want to thank you for your time being here. And I know we chose you this year through our process, and I'm really glad that you're so thorough. And I've had several calls, and it's really nice to know that you're willing to do that. So do any council members have any questions regarding this topic?
I don't have it.
Nope. Well, it looks like we're all good. It sounds like you're very thorough with what you did. Well, appreciate it again. And thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a safe week. We don't have a quasi judicial proceeding or a public hearing, but we do have for unfinished business, the second and final reading of our golf cart ordinance, which is 2021-01. Mary, or will you be reading it?
Yes, I will.
Thank
An
you.
ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Lake Clark Shores, Florida, amending Chapter 58 Traffic and Vehicles, Article 3 Golf Carts, in part to provide for a revised definition of golf carts, to clarify a prohibited use, to allow children under 7 to ride on the lap of an adult passenger, to revise inspection requirements, permit fees, and required equipment, providing authority to codify, providing a conflicts clause, a severability clause, and an effective date, and for other purposes.
Thank you, Mary. We have the second reading of the ordinance. Is there any discussion or motion regarding this ordinance?
So
Moved by Bob Shalhoub. Do I have a second?
Second.
By Greg Freebold. All those in favor of this ordinance, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, good. Now we have our new golf cart ordinance official. New business, an approval to sell a portion of the unusable town land located at the northwest corner of LCS-F North Finger Canal to Ryan Forney in the amount of $1,500. And I believe Mr. Forney's here. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, so this came up upon our agenda, and there, as you probably know in your packet, you received a counter offer from Mr. Forney in the letter dated December 17, 2020. We received an email. There was an email back on November 30th, 2017. And I'd like to open this up for discussion amongst the council members, but I thought maybe first we could start with our town attorney, just at least explaining the situation, where we're at and what our duty is at this point.
There's an Attorney General opinion, AGO 9616, which addresses this thoroughly, and I'm going to just very briefly summarize it. Section 125.35 of the Florida statutes governs the disposition of surplus property, but it applies not to municipalities, it applies to counties. And it requires an appraisal, a determination of the fair market value, advertising, and then sale to the highest successful bidder. There was also years ago a statute applying to municipalities, Chapter 167, which was very similar. In 1973, when municipal home rule came into effect in the state of Florida, that statute was repealed and never put back in play in our statutes. The Attorney General, in answering the question of what procedure a municipality has to follow in the sale of the land, states as follows, and I'm going to read this if I may. In the absence of a charter provision or ordinance specifying the procedure to be utilized in disposing of surplus municipal real property, the method of disposing such property is left to the discretion of the municipality's governing body, which is required only to act in good faith and in the best interest of the municipality. While the municipality may utilize the procedures prescribed in Section 125 or former Section 167.35, it is not required to do so. So you have complete discretion. I think it was about 3 years ago when we looked at this, we tried to determine the value of this piece of property. We contacted two appraisers. One said that they weren't interested in appraising it, and the other one, I think their fee was approaching $2,000, and we thought that was a bit excessive for the appraisal of this piece of land. So we determined the square footage value of Mr. Forney's parcel and then multiplied that square footage value by the square feet on this parcel. And that came to a figure of between $10,000 and $12,000. Obviously, Mr. Forney rejected that offer and now has submitted an offer for $1,500. So you need to decide how you want to proceed, and you have complete and full discretion.
Thank you, Mr. Scheck. Mr. Clark, do you want to add anything at this point before we start discussing it, as far as your history or understanding of these negotiations?
Mr. Scheck did an excellent job relating to this piece of property. What staff did is staff looked back at a similar situation which occurred in the early 2000s where there was a piece of property next to the lake that was limiting an individual's ability to put in a pool. And they bought that property from the town. at about 10%, a little over 10% of the assessed valuation. So we kind of followed the same approach on this particular parcel, looking at that as precedent for what had been done before.
When you say 10% of the assessed valuation, do you mean of the assessed valuation of the entire property?
Of following the same procedures that Mr. Scheck laid out,
Okay,
determining the value of that small parcel, and then a little over 10% of the value of that small parcel was the final number.
do you remember the amount? Was it 5,000, 7,000?
It was $5,000 on a 41,000 and change assessment.
Okay. Okay, thank you. When this came to my attention, I just asked Dan if he would please go back and look at the history of how we've dealt with these, because I want to be, very fair, obviously, to Mr. Forney, but also we want to make sure we're not giving away property improperly. We're not abusing our discretion. So, and then the other question is, are we obligated to open this up to others who might be interested in buying it as well? And that was kind of one of the questions. I didn't know whether we had to do that or not. It doesn't look like that's the procedure we followed back. I don't really remember the old one, but you said it was in 2000s?
The motion was made by Mr. Shalhoub, seconded by Mr. Freebolt, and a 5-0 vote in favor of that. And I can't remember the exact date, but for some reason, 2003 sticks in my mind.
And then, so the other question I had, Charlie, was this email that Ms. Pinkerman sent to Mr. Forney back in 2017, 3 years ago, a little over 3 years ago. With 12,000 then, would it be more now? I know our property values have gone up.
I don't know the current value, but I do know that property values have gone up in the last 3 years. So I think it would be a proper assumption that the property value did go up somewhat. I do not know how much, though.
Okay. If it's okay with council, and you just let me know if this is okay, maybe we can allow Mr. Forney an opportunity to speak, and then we could discuss.
Sure.
That sounds like a good idea. Mr. Forney, if you'd like to come up to the podium, just state your name and address right here and say whatever you'd like to tell us.
Yes, good evening. My name is Ryan Forney. I am the owner of 1530 Carambola. I'm not really sure I have too much to add here as far as I bought the property several years ago. I just since designed and built the property on there, and I don't have access to that canal. Obviously, you can see it was platted with a bull nose at the end there. It's 75 foot wide, and I have what is a quarter of the slice of pie there. So it's less than 1,000 square feet, but it precludes me from using that water without having insurance on. So really, it's your property, but it should be maintained by you, and you all have a liability. So if I own it, I maintain it. There's no liability. It's really a hole in the donut. I don't see how it has value to anyone else. So I would be glad to.
Sure. What about the neighbor next to you? I mean,
Yes.
Could that person find any value in it? I was trying to figure that out.
Sure.
Looking at this.
So bear with me. If you take that line at the bottom corner of the radius at the point there, and if you draw that straight down, let's just call it south on the screen there. My neighbors owned that property for, I don't know, 25 years or so. He went through a process, I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, and he sued the development company or the real estate company. I'm not really sure what the specifics were. So he owns that property now. So his property, he took the other quarter of that slice of pie there. So it doesn't look like that anymore. There's no bull nose, there's nothing there. So he owns the south portion of kind of what I want to own on the north portion. So his is a more rectilinear now also.
Do you know how he obtained it?
Yeah, he went through a process. He got an attorney, and he sued either the development company or the realtor or somewhere in there. But it's my understanding they are now defunct. Might not be, they're no longer in existence. There's no one to sue for the property. So But he owns that property, which is that roughly 980 square feet to the south of me, yeah.
Okay. So I guess the question for council is we've got a quarter of a pie or a pie shape, quarter of a pie, I guess, a slice of a pie shaped piece of land. And we offered in 2017, 12,000, the counter offers $1,500. Charlie says it may be worth more than 12, but we're not sure. We haven't spent the money on an assessment. So do any of you have any questions of Mr. Forney?
Charlie, how much time do you have in this? Want to recoup your costs?
I probably have about 3 hours.
All right, is that $298 or is it?
It'll be less than $1,000.
Okay.
Because did you already prepare the deed?
The deed was prepared by the city. I reviewed it, modified it, and I insisted that it not only have a deed, but a unity of title.
I saw that in the back.
Because
explain that to everybody, please.
the purpose for the unity of title is so that we don't have two parcels of land here, one that could be then resold to someone else for some other purpose. I don't know who would want to buy it, but if it's separate and apart from Mr. Forney's lot, it hangs out there as a separate piece of property. Because he wants to utilize it as part of his property, I felt it was appropriate to have a unity of title. Now, our parcel, the pie shape, does not have a property control number. Mr. Forney's property does have a property control number. This would, by utilizing the unity of title, the pie shaped piece becomes part of his property control number. And because our property is not taxable, the minute the sale takes place and the deed is recorded, the pie shape becomes taxable, and it's much easier to tax it as part of Mr. Forney's property than a separate parcel.
Okay. So one benefit the town gets is that we get that extra, whatever tax revenue would be from that portion.
Absolutely.
Well,
that's going to be de minimis.
It may, or I don't know, may or may not be. But I guess the other question I have is, what is the benefit to Mr. Forney? And maybe you can help me, Mr. Forney. Obviously, you want this to develop something there that will ultimately add value to your property, clearly more than $1,200 value, right?
I guess you could make that statement. Yeah, I would probably like to use it, put a seawall in there and probably put a dock and maybe a boat. Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm just thinking out loud here, then you sell it 5 years from now or 3 or whatever, then you have that extra benefit that's for your property. See, the only thing so the way I see it is if you get this extra piece of property, your property's more valuable for marketing purposes. You have a boat, you'd be able to put a dock, I guess. That would enable a dock. And then that adds X number of dollars to the value of your house. But then again, to the town, there's no intrinsic value to the property to us as it sits. So really, we are getting no taxable value, which, as Bob said, is de minimis probably. But
Or with his homestead. Probably.
Yeah. But are you open to negotiations of the $1,500? Because if we sold a piece of property to someone similarly situated, but probably not as much property 10 years ago or 15 years ago for $5,000, why should we sell it to you for $1,500 when in fact our attorney tells us he has $1,000 of time in it?
Yeah, I guess I think the comparison you're making, though, if I'm not mistaken, you said that property was assessed at 40,000. So there's no assessment on this. And what the calculation I did is just took the square footage of the property that I bought and then basically backed it into 980 square feet, and it came up with some number of, I forget, 12,000 and change, I think. So if you're using that same calculus at 10%, it's around that number. So I'm not going to tell you how to qualify and justify.
You don't want to negotiate against yourself.
Yeah. It has no value to the town. It's a liability. It's not maintained. The gentleman who bought the property would maintain it for 20 years. So it's really just liability. And there's kids that come up there and fish on there and stuff. So it's a liability. There's no benefit. I get to use it. the city gets it's a small stipend but it's in perpetuity tax. So I just don't see why the city would want to push back on it. So if they want to come back and go round and round on it, I'm in no position to say I can't.
Well, we are the city kind of.
Certainly.
So
Yep,
we're here now to kind of maybe put this to sleep, to kind of,
I'll make a motion.
Yes,
How about 2,500? I'll cover our out-of-pocket costs.
I'm not going to sit and go circles because I have nothing to back out. I'm not going to say no. So, and then we're back here. So I willingly accept that. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Well, we have to convince the other.
yeah, the way government works is that.
It doesn't keep going up, does it? He says 35.
Mr. Ford, you got to understand,
Yeah.
I haven't talked to anybody.
Sure.
I've talked to two people,
Uh-huh.
and that's Mr. Scheck and
Yeah.
Mr. Clark. I haven't talked to anybody up here.
Yeah.
So, hey, look, I made the motion. and
Second.
I'm-
Yeah,
you know, we're in a very unique position all the time, but we all, I'm finished with calling people residents. We're all neighbors. And I think you understand why we just want to cover
Certainly.
our out-of-pocket
Absolutely.
costs.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love it. I was excited. I lived in Vernon Heights for years. I saw property come up and I go, oh my God, something came available. A lot came available. I can build something up there. I built a nice house in my primary residence. I love it here. I just want to be able to use the water. So yeah.
that's the other thing I was going to bring up is I did look at the residents. I mean, you're only adding value to our town by building
Sure.
such a nice place, and we always like that. But like whenever you do a closing, you sometimes have to add the attorney's fees on,
Certainly.
and and he could have spent a lot more time, but he didn't, because fortunately we have some in-house counsel that did a lot of the work, which has been one of our town's ways of trying to be more efficient
Certainly.
with fees and things of that nature. But okay, any more discussion? We have a second on the motion. Any discussion?
Yeah,
before-
Mr. Pavone, are we okay on that?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's being, the lot isn't gonna have any value as it sits by itself. You can't, no ingress, egress, so there's no value there. Once he decides to build something, it increases the value of his house, which at the end of the day will increase tax dollars as well.
Right.
So I'm okay with the 2,500.
Well, yeah, you sell your house for some big price and someone who comes in without portability buys it, our town's happy because all of a sudden we can tax off a much higher amount. And that's kind of how those things sometimes work. And I wasn't meaning to say that you're trying to make a profit off the town. I get it. You're trying to resolve just a small issue. Mr. Freebold, any questions?
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay, well, then there is a motion on the floor that's been seconded for a counter offer of $2,500 to Mr. Ryan Forney in order to purchase the property that's referenced in our the minutes of our meeting, the LCSF North Finger Canal. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Sound
Gentlemen,
like,
I want to thank you for your time and the opportunity. I love being here, and I want to commend Mr. Clark. He does a commensurate professional to deal with, and it's been very helpful in doing what's right for the city and the approach. So thank you.
it's nice to have an engineer on staff.
Thank you.
What
Thank
do you do, Mr. Forney? I see a lot of initials after your name.
So I'm an architect, I'm a registered architect, a member of AIA. I'm also a certified general contractor. I don't do it for other people. I built my house as a CGC, so architect and contractor.
Wow.
Yeah. Like the house?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was a piece of grass over there.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that's one of the benefits of having someone like you come in and build a house, is you just add character to the town. So we appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so that was we have audience comments now, Mr. Clark. Do we have any emailed questions?
Checking, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
No, we have no emailed questions, and we have no hands up of our participants tonight.
How many participants, Mr. Clark?
We have 5 attendees tonight, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, we have one. Anybody in the audience here who's live wants to ask a question or make a comment? Seeing none, we will move to status reports. Can we start with our police chief? Could you tell us the status of our law enforcement?
Sure. All of you have a copy of the report that was submitted. It's online for the people who are watching. They can go and look at the stats and see what's going on. We did have 3 arrests last month. That was for narcotics, heroin. Subjects were booked in the county jail. I think we handled about 16 accidents, 14 civil cases. And then you can look at the stats on this and you get an idea of the other issues that we handled. Overall, the crime rate is down about 17%. So that's good. And also you have a copy of the fire rescue, Palm Beach County, with all the statistics on response and their times.
Great. Any questions of the police chief regarding his report?
Good job, Chief.
Thank
Keep
you.
it up.
You know, when you said our crime rate's down, well, we really didn't have a high crime rate anyway, which is great, thanks to your policing. So I appreciate that. I think we are the most crime-free community in Palm Beach County. We're pretty much right there, which is nice. Somebody knocking on wood.
Yes.
Yeah, knock on wood. Yeah. Okay, great. Charlie, would you do your report, please?
My report is included in your packet. It's rather brief, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, Mr. Scheck?
No.
Any council members? No? Okay, Mr. Clark?
My report is in the packet. I'll be happy to answer any questions. I do have one supplemental item for the report. My employment agreement with the town of Lake Clark Shores expires the first week in May. And it has a clause, paragraph 3, that says that it will automatically renew unless at the end of the initial term, party notify the others in writing 30 days prior to the expiration of the agreement. So since our next council meeting is less than 30 days, I wanted to make you aware of that clause now so that you can terminate me if you so see it necessary.
Well, don't we need to know whether you want to reapply?
It's automatic. I don't have a
You have to
choice
say a word. Well, do you like your job?
so far.
Can we ask him to exit? So,
And we want to talk about.
Yeah. If you leave the room, we'll like to say a few choice words.
Are there any suggested modifications in your contract, Mr. Clark, that would you like for us to consider or maybe renegotiate or?
I'm very happy with my employment here, and I think this agreement is very fair. The one thing that has not changed in the 10 years that I've worked for the town is my vacation. We started out at 4 weeks. We're still at 4 weeks. So if it were council's kindness, we could bump that up to 6 weeks vacation a year. That would be great. But like I said, I'm very happy here.
Would you actually take it?
My wife says that I will.
Okay.
Do you even take 4 weeks now?
No. So do you lose it every year if you don't take it? How it works?
My agreement is the same as all the employees in town. It caps out at 240 hours.
Okay.
If there's more than 240 hours showing at the end of the year, then we zero that out.
Okay. Well, I will
That's 6
say,
weeks.
yeah, 6 weeks. Yeah, so he's capped out at 6 weeks anyway, but then he gets another 6. So
And I misspoke. We don't zero it out. We just don't let any more than the 240 accrue.
So the contract says 4. So you want no more than 240. That's 4 and that's 6.
That's 6.
But in theory, 1 year you could have 12 weeks, right? Or no?
Right.
Okay, you could have 12 weeks. Okay,
Right.
that's what he's trying to say. So he's got accrued 6 weeks, 240 hours, and then this year he gets 6, if he got 6 weeks. And that's the
Fine print.
Yeah,
So at the end of the year, when it comes time to renew again, if I have more than 240 hours on the books, I don't get any more vacation.
plus this year it was hard to do vacation.
And like next week, we're going to spend 4 days next week at Cinnamon Beach, and I'm working 3 of the 4 days remotely. So
And, you know, and council, that brings me to another point. This 2020 was a tough year. I mean, it was like a year you couldn't take vacations. I just signed the 51st emergency order that are signed every week. You know, so Dan, I want to commend you for leading us down uncharted territory in a year that nobody ever could have predicted it would have been this way, with all sorts of issues, and including telling us when we could and could not come to town hall.
trying to keep everyone safe, Mr. Mayor.
Keeping everybody safe. So from my perspective, I'm okay with these 6 weeks versus 2. I mean, versus 4. But how does the council feel?
I want to ask a question, a couple of questions to Mr.
please.
Clark, not related to this subject. I know he works very hard. I see him here on Sundays,
Okay.
Saturdays, whatever is necessary. So the time off, especially after year like 2020 for me, is no problem. I just wanted 2 questions quickly, if I may. Are we still on track for the Pine Tree Bridge?
We have a conference call on that tomorrow, and the drawings are actually right on the table if anybody wants to look at the preliminary drawings after the meeting. I believe that they're behind. There's a chance that we can salvage it yet. DOT has put a constraint on us that the construction has to occur complete within the off-season because of traffic on Forest Hill Boulevard and the interaction of traffic on Forest Hill Boulevard.
What are they considering off-season? While school's out, while, you know, the height of tourist season is down? What, how would they classify?
Tourist season, not so much school, but
So what's
tourist
that,
season.
May 15th, June 1st?
Well, if everything were ideal, we'd like to start June 1st, but that's not going to happen.
No.
The bigger issue is we've probably got a 90-day construction window. So when do we end? And we're trying to get clarification from them on that. If we're ending the end of September or sometime in September, then we've still got a chance to get this thing done this year. We'll know more tomorrow. The drawings say 50%. I think they're a little more than 50%, but they're clearly not done. We need at least 4 weeks to bid the job. And then there's probably 4 weeks between getting council approval for the bid and the notice to proceed for the contractors, because he's got to order piling and all of that stuff has a fabrication lead time. So it's looking more and more like it may not be this year, but we'll know more tomorrow.
Okay. And then the next thing, this is outside of your realm of responsibility. However, have you had any contact? Are we still on target for the first phase 1 of the road work on Florida Mango from 10th to Forest Hill?
Yes, we are.
And when is that scheduled to begin?
October.
October?
The reason I know that is we've had conversations recently with them about tapping into the sewer force main that runs down Florida Mango. We'll probably do a tap ahead of construction and get that out of the way so that we're not delaying them. And they gave us until November to get that tap done.
Okay, very good. That's it for me.
Any
gentlemen.
further questions for Mr. Clark?
If I may,
Yes, please.
if you take a look at Charlie's report, COVID-19 vaccination, where we're in, can you explain to everybody about that and the possibility of obtaining our own vaccine?
That is an up and down challenge. When we started discussing this, the assumption was that everybody was going to get the vaccine and we needed to create a pod so that we had the qualified people to do that. When we submitted our documentation to the health department for the first go around, they said we did not have qualified people to be able to provide the vaccine. Now that's after they determined that the vaccine was going to be an injection only. There was some talk early on that it was going to be a pill form or a sugar cube form like the polio we all got a million years ago. when it became injection only, we had to go out and look for a company that could do that for us. We have been working with AMR to get an agreement in place to be able to do that. We're ready to sign that agreement, but now the approach is different, and it's going to the pharmacies. It's less than a 5% chance that we'll be able to get the vaccine to do our own pod here. Our governor has selected a lot of different ways to disperse the vaccine. The feds have decided to set up their own facilities, so there are now 4 federal facilities in the south part of the state. It doesn't look like we'll ever be able to exercise our pod and have injections here.
On, again, Mr. Clark, you might yield to Mr. Scheck. And Mr. Scheck's report, there was information on 7730 Westlake Drive. I know people driving up and down Westlake, they stop me in the morning and when I'm going out to get the newspaper and going, hey, Shalhoub, what's going on with the, the piece of property? And I reassure them that that's subject to liens and code enforcement. I know in the past, and it was a neighbor mentioned it to me, why can't you put a sign in their yard saying this property is, have code violations? I think we used to do that in the past. Can you bring us up to date to number one, who owns it and what's the extent of the amount of the outstanding liens?
I'll provide a little information on where we are and what we're going, and I'll ask Charlie to fill in the details because there's some I don't know. The code board asked us if we could take a 2-prong approach, and the first approach is their approach where they have fines that are continuing to amount on this particular piece of property for, I think, 5 different code violations. The second approach was to cite them as a nuisance property and go ahead and clean it up and put that on the tax roll, which we have the ability to do. The challenge with citing them is we don't know who to cite right now or who to issue. The process for declaring it a nuisance property is you have to give them notice and you have to give them an opportunity to correct it. And we don't know who to notice. The lady that used to live there, we believe, is in an assisted living facility right now. No one seems to be responding to any mail. The mail is not getting forwarded to her. We've had several returned letters here that were sent out certified mail. So it's becoming a bigger issue on who we talk to. We believe that the house has a reverse mortgage and we're trying to get the bank involved. Right now, the bank doesn't want to be involved, but we're trying to work it from both directions. And Charlie probably has a better idea of what the fines are. And
I don't know the total amount of the fines, but there are 5 concurrent fines accruing on the property, and that lien is in place. I've discussed with staff the possibility of following through with the nuisance violation and town going in and doing cleanup and then assessing the property. It came to our attention that there may be people doing some work on the property, and it was the decision to allow that to happen if it was gonna happen. But if it does not actually take place, then we would proceed with the nuisance issue. It is my understanding that the owner is in some type of healthcare facility, and no one is responding, but the property is mortgaged and it will be ultimately foreclosed on and taken by the mortgage company.
Well, on a reverse mortgage, after the date of death, you have 1 year in which to pay back the reverse mortgage dollars that you received, as I understand it.
That's correct.
Number 2, if the person is not living there, Obviously, there's a homestead issue that needs to be vetted. And then if you're going to foreclose on your liens, you're telling me that we're going to be behind the mortgage company anyhow.
Yes.
So
And
the issue becomes whether or not it's economically justifiable to spend the dollars to clean it up, to have some curb appeal, because of the nuisance and the infestation issue that comes with it.
And the issue of homestead is such that if a person is temporarily away from the property because they're in rehab
It's
or they're
still
in the
homestead
hospital,
protection.
if their intent is to come back, it stays homestead. If their intent is not to come back, then they lose the homestead. And obviously at this point, we do not know the health condition of the owner, and we do not know what the owner's intent is.
Well, I'm not advocating displacing anybody from their homestead. I
Right.
want that clear. I just want the place cleaned up,
Absolutely.
and it's a safety issue.
Kind of reminds me of the Barbie situation.
Let's not go down that
Yeah,
rabbit hole.
it's not that bad. Okay, any other questions?
No, I'm fine.
Any other questions, Mr. Clark? Okay, great. We do have a CRA short meeting tonight. Any council comments before we adjourn? I'll start with you, Mr. Pavone.
Nope, no comments.
Mr. Freebold,
Albert, my condolences for your father. Bob, I've seen you. My condolences for your mother. I hope their memories are eternal with you all. I've met both of them. Your father was a man of God. Him and I actually had Cuban coffee many times.
that's like,
And Bob may not remember this, but I may have slipped his mother a little tiny bourbon at a barbecue one day. She asked, I couldn't refuse.
Yeah,
I love it.
So I'm sorry for your loss, gentlemen.
thank you.
Okay. My deepest condolences to you, Paul, because I was very close to my grandmother also. So
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Bob? any other-
Couple congratulations, Mr. Freebold and Mr. Shalhoub on your reelection and with no opposition. So job well done, they good and faithful servant. Also, a shout out to appreciate Doreen Harling, Anthony Intenza, and David Agard being appointed to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. So congratulations, everybody. I think you're leading by example in coming to your volunteer work to make our town a little bit better for everybody to live. And that's all I have for council comments at this time. Thank you all very, very much.
Vice Mayor Shalhoub?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A few things. One, received a letter from tax collector Ann Gannon. And if you want to go and get your guide to Tax Planner and Services Guide for 2021, you can go to www.pbctax.com. She was very kind to send this out to us. Some useful information in there, especially if you don't know where to start looking and with regard to your taxes. Feel free to go to that website and see what information you can gain. We talked about the pod for the town. With regard to our annexation bill, I've been talking with Representative Silvers for our local bill to see what we can get moving on that. Last week and then this week I spoke again with Representative Silvers and Chair Jackie Toledo, where we're hoping to get the local bill into her committee. I had a conversation with them today. I'll get the information to Dan once I hear back from Representative Silvers on how that went. Hopefully we can get some traction there. Also been talking with Representative Silvers on our $1 million appropriations that we've been trying to get with regard to our septic sewer conversion. He's working on that diligently, and hopefully we'll have some additional updates later today, if not later this week, on that. Also, last but not least, on the heels of the congratulations to the new Parks and Rec Committee members, congratulations. We still need, I'm told, Dan, we need 2 more. So we need
Yes,
2
please.
more members, would be great. I've reached out to a couple people, but we still need 2 more people to join.
Claudine is raising her hand. She would like to be part of the Parks
You-
and Recreation Committee. We've had.
You want to be on the
discussion-
Parks and Rec Committee?
Yes, she does. It's a Park and Recreation Committee where you have a say in how the parks are designed and established and what we do with them. We've had that
Yes.
discussion.
We
I
are
talked to
looking,
Dan about it today.
we're looking to get a grant for some pickleball courts to be installed here in town. The last time we had a committee together, I was the chair, I don't know, 5, 8, however many years ago it was. And that led to the gym equipment being put over in Community Park. So in order to get the grants, you need to have the committee. The committee meets 3 or 4 times over the course of several months to figure out what's going to go where and how things are going to be. They make the decisions based on the information provided by the town. And then we put everything together. The town does apply for the grant money. If we get it, we get to add an additional space. Yes, 3 or 4 meetings are about an hour apiece, spread out. I'm going based off memory here. Spread out over 3 to 5 months. I don't remember how long it took us to get the last one done, because it was so long ago.
That's the
Well,
question.
we can talk about it after the meeting, but either way, we still need some members. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's a great way to get engaged with the town. And if you're on the zoning board or code enforcement board, you can also serve on the Parks and Rec Committee. So please talk about it, think about it, and contact Mary Pinkerman here at the town. All right, that's it. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. Well, I want to thank Dan for all the hard work, and I think this issue really worked out well tonight. Our discussion, regarding the property and offering it to you, Mr. Forney, and I'm glad that maybe you'll take more active role in our town. We would always love to have extra.
There's an opening on the Parks and Recreation.
I get that, but it's always nice to have an engineer or a general contractor or whatever skills you have, any ideas you have, just share them with us. We're a small town, but we take pride in being small. For the last year, we've been in COVID, officially 1 year council meeting. This is 1 year. And I tell you what, I would not want to live in a better place. We are so blessed. I have not been on an airplane for over a year, and I don't miss it at all. I have not left the state of Florida in over a year, and I have not missed traveling one bit at all. And I was a 2 million miler on Delta. So it was quite a change for me. But I tell you what, the one thing I look forward to every Saturday and Sunday and every day of the week is getting up and living here, because Florida has been amazing. And our town has been really nice. And it's just been refreshing to enjoy our outdoors during COVID and keep our rates low. All the older relatives I know have gotten the vaccination, and I know different people are getting it. And I'm sure the younger people up here eventually will be able to get it. And that'll be nice. And I think things will be a lot safer. But it was a very tough year from the perspective of a town, of the employees we had in town here who were affected by COVID. It was very sad, some of the stories they had to go through and be out and the pain. But I tell you what, this became a big family, this town hall, because everybody looked out for everyone and helped each other out and all the other issues that came up. And that's really what makes this town so special, is there are families among families within families, right, Bob?
Thank God.
Half of Bob's family is the town. But I just say that jokingly, but every time I learn of someone new who's related to Bob who lives in town. But that being said, there couldn't have been a better place to be during this dilemma that none of us were ready for. And as council members, thank you all for doing everything you could to help out with people who needed help. And there will be plenty more to come in the next year. It's not going to be an easy year. I can remember the meeting in March of last year because we were debating the barbecue, right, Bob? We were not sure if we were going to have the barbecue because that meeting was in early March and we weren't really sure. And then guess what? A week later, everything exploded. But we were actually thinking we might be able to have a barbecue in the
We're
Sabbath.
thinking if you're sick, stay away.
Yeah,
If you want to come on.
right. Or takeout, or, you're thinking all sorts of
Wow.
ideas. No takeout. But we haven't had a barbecue. We miss it. We haven't had some of the town events that we normally have, and we miss them, and they're going to be so much better when we finally have them. It will be the post-COVID barbecue. It's going to be awesome, but obviously we need to take precautions and only be ready to do it when we're ready. So with that being said, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Thank you. Now we're going to start our final meeting of the night, the Lake Clark Shores Community Redevelopment Agency meeting of March 9th, 2021. Mary, could you do the roll call?
Just 1 second.
No problem. I went fast. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Where
Chairman
are you
Valteen.
at, Mary? Are
Go
you
ahead, I'm
here?
sorry. Ready?
Yes, we're ready. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Chairman Valteen Rodriguez,
Here.
Vice Chairman Paul Shalhoub,
Present.
Commissioner Robert Shalhoub.
Here.
Commissioner Gregory Freebold,
Here.
Commissioner Albert Pavone.
Here.
Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Second. Okay. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Approval of consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now, Mr. Clark, will you present the 2019-2020 annual report? And if anyone in the audience needs a copy, we have some somewhere. And I think were these mailed out to all residents? Or
No.
No. Okay.
It's online.
It's online. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, please.
To answer your question, Mr. Mayor, Mary's in her office and Emily is in her office.
Okay.
Emily is controlling the graphics that we see and turning mics on and off. And Mary is doing what Mary always does so wonderfully.
That's awesome. It's funny because it sounds like she's far away, like, in another country, piping in. That's good. And we do appreciate your new video and audio system. This is really nice. It's much better up here, not having a computer screen in front of you.
Yeah.
Thank you. If you want to see something that's pretty entertaining, take a look at the last code board meeting. We learned a lot of lessons on what not to do at the last code board meeting, and it doesn't have anything to do with technology. It has to do with being prepared and ready.
Oh, okay.
Let me start out with a refresher on the CRA's mission statement. The mission statement of the Lake Clark Shores Community Redevelopment Agency is to optimize the future value of property within the community redevelopment area by creating a prioritized strategy for redevelopment, including investing in capital infrastructure that will support the CRA and improvements desired by the town and the residents of the community. Now, I wanted to refresh people's memory on that because as we look at this last year and we take a snapshot look at next year, there's really some great things that are going on. 30 new building permits were done last year, representing improvements to existing facilities as well as 10 new businesses that moved into the CRA. That is all under the guidance of an incredibly brilliant board made up of the town council sitting as the board of the CRA, with Mr. Rodriguez as the chair, Paul Shalhoub as the vice chair, and 3 commissioners, Robert Shalhoub, Gregory Freebold, and Albert Pavone. One of the amazing things that I want to point out to this group is the chart that's currently on your screen, on the screens up here. For clarification, the blue line is the actual growth of the CRA. The orange line was the projected growth when we created the CRA and had these long conversations with the county on what we were going to do. We've seen 25% growth in the CRA in the last 3 years. That's a phenomenal number by anybody's measurements. And it's because we've had these great programs in place that's encouraging and supporting new development within the CRA. We have last year total revenues of $45,276. We had expenditures of $26,479. Emily, that would be the next slide. Leaving a unspent revenue level of $18,797. Adding that to our previous fund balance of $43,408 gives us an ending fund balance of $62,605. We have programs that we have committed to for those funds. We've committed to the redevelopment advocacy program, which helped with the improvements in this room, the business development incentive program, and the infrastructure improvement program. So you're going to tell me that those commitments are greater than what we have in fund balance, and yes, that's true. But we're also anticipating $67,000 of revenue this year. So we have the means to fund those programs and more. It's a great place to be.
Could you tell us a little bit about business development program?
The Business Development Incentive Program was the program that the council put in place, I'm going to say around August, that allows for matching grants for beautification. $5,000, up to $5,000 match per property to allow them to beautify their property.
And has any of that been used yet, or
No.
that's for the future? So we can encourage the plaza over here and other places like that to do it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great.
It's available now. Nobody's asked for the money.
Okay.
Pardon me? No, you're not in the CRA.
You're in the luxury part of town.
So when we look at our balance sheet, we have total assets currently of, or at the end of the fiscal year, of $63,339. We had an accounts payable balance of $1,134, leaving a fund balance of $62,205. I want to point out something that I'm excited about that's currently going on, moving slower than we had hoped, but very positive. And that's the Mrs. Hubbard 8-unit apartment complex on the corner of Lake Clark Road and Forest Hill Boulevard. We talked to council and staff got direction to develop a program where the town could provide some support, the CRA could provide some support, and we can get her a sewer lift station to be able to move her, to deal with her failing septic tank and drain field. So the engineers have done the work. We actually have a permit for a design. We've got recent and current costs. She has a developer's agreement that she's ready to sign, but then the Department of Housing and Economic Sustainability with Palm Beach County jumped in and said, hey, we may have some money we can help. So we're now waiting for DHES to figure out how much money they have that they can throw in the pot to assist her. And the way that they are going to work that is whatever they have, they want to donate to the town, and then the town will be responsible for constructing the facilities, operating the facilities, and will own the facilities. So that will require another interlocal agreement. So we're weekly negotiating with the county to try and figure out what they can do and move that forward.
That's great.
And when you say facilities, that is also known as
Sewer lift station.
the lift station. Wanted to make sure that got on the record.
Is there an, okay,
Any questions about the CRA?
yep, any questions, Mr. Clark?
I love where it's going. This is fantastic. I remember when it started, we weren't talking about $67,000 coming in at this time. So this is
Right.
great.
We have a couple newer businesses that aren't in your report, but we do have the pizzeria and the flower shop, right, that were open, but those were, I guess, aren't within this fiscal year, excuse me, because it ended September 30th. But that's good news. You got additional places coming in.
You know, if I may, just a bit of history here for those of you who weren't on the council. When Dan and I went to the county to make the pitch for the CRA, it was very, very interesting. It was basically absolutely no way you're going to get this.
Yeah.
And I indicated to the county administrator, if you give us the CRA, I'll bet you anything you want that the increase in value of the surrounding properties will exceed the dollar value that the tax revenue that you're losing by allowing the CRA to be developed. For those of you who are listening and the audience, when you take the CRA as the map that you'll see, all of those dollars and the tax dollars are now going to the CRA. They're not going to the county. So the county's losing out on it. And the county didn't want the CRA because they said, basically, if I give you a CRA, Palm Springs is going to want a CRA and they're going to lose the tax revenue. So my bet, if you will, or my statement to the county staff was, if by not giving us a CRA, you're not going to recoup the dollars. And I think the proof is in the pudding that the increase in the surrounding value of the properties exceeded the dollars that they were going to lose in their own argument to us. And this is proof. We're doing a great job. And this is just a great community. And it's great to be a part of it. So you're right, Mr. Shalhoub. We didn't anticipate this much. When you take a look at it, wow. It's almost like you want to say, dear county commissioners, but we made a deal with the county commissioners that no other municipality ever presented for a CRA.
Right. Well, we gave it back.
Partnership.
We gave them back a portion, and they're going to be really happy we did because.
Well, when they get up to the incremental value, but that was a great cooperative effort by all of the members of the town, and we done good.
Yeah, very good.
Dan, thank you for leading that charge.
It's a team effort. I can't do what I do without the support of you guys. And I really appreciate everything that you do for us to be able to let us do what we do. One of the interesting things to think about is that break point when we start giving them back a share of the TIF money is at 50% of the assessed valuation. That theoretically, if we went 25% in 3 years, we could hit 50% in another 3 years. So their return will be phenomenal in a very short period of time.
Right. Maybe that'll encourage them to let other municipalities do that.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to point out to them how successful we're being and how quickly that number can be there so that they will invest in us and allow us to get there quicker. So that was one of the arguments we put forward with Mrs. Hubbard's property is you've got a vested interest in making this successful here. Help us out.
Remember, it's our money. It's our tax.
Yeah, I know.
Keeping it here.
Yeah.
Keeping it local, which is nice, right? Okay, do we have any, I don't think we have any new business. Any audience comments that are emailed or written regarding the CRA meeting?
None came in. No questions coming.
Okay,
No.
none? Okay,
Sorry, no.
that's okay. And any questions of audience members here? None. And any comments by any of the commissioners? I'll start with you, Mr. Pavone.
No comments.
Well, your business is right in the middle of the CRA. That's really nice.
I never complain.
Yeah. And congratulations on how successful your business has been in 2020. I got your little brochure of what, $80 million? How much property have you
Yeah.
sold in Lake Clark Shores?
That was 80 million.
$80 million.
18 million.
18
18 million.
80.
Yeah.
It's
$18 million
That's a
in
different
property
buyer.
sold in here.
Yeah.
We also 2020 saw our first property sell for over
1.4 cash.
1.4 million cash. That's a surprise for 2020. Great. And Paul Shahoo,
No comments. Thank you.
Greg,
No, sir.
and Bob.
No, let it be written, let it be done.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to add is one thing we forgot to do in the last meeting, and I know we can't do it in the CRA, but just so it's on the record. Dan, your whole vacation thing, I mean, just have it ready for the next meeting for just an approval, I guess. Is that how we would do it? Because you asked about the 6 weeks. We forgot to address that at the last meeting. With that being said, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
speaking of the next meeting, we'll also need some time to set goals for the next year. The agreement says we set goals in May, and then we assess those the following May.
Okay.
So we'll need to, if you have thoughts or ideas on what you'd like to see accomplished, send them to me and I can put together a package for where we're headed.
Okay.
From May to May.
We take a look at our goals that we put together in the last 5 years to compare how successful we are.
Yes, we did not do any last year
I
because
don't
we
remember
were in
doing
the
that.
middle.
That's why I asked for it.
Yeah, we were in the middle of COVID last year.
Chaos,
We-
yeah.
I think we even skipped the April meeting, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we didn't, I don't think we had an April.
So we don't have anything from last year, but I have info from the years before.
Yeah. Please, Dan.
Thank you.
So moved.
All right, everybody be safe. Take care of yourself and take care of others.